Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield, and this is the Zwiftcast, coming up on this episode. Innsbruck is out there. We discuss, debate and analyse, plus a behind-the-scenes insight into how it was made. Mark Cavendish talks all things Zwift as we assess the role of pro riders on the platform. And there's a new Zwifty podcast focused on racing. I talked to one half of the duo behind it about whether racing can recover from its tough summer. Well, I'm super stoked to make that pumped, psyched even. Actually, I'm just kind of pleased. I must have been reading too many Zwift press releases to be joined by my fellow Zwiftcasters, Shay Miller. G'day, mate.
G'day, Simon. It's been a busy week of press releases. Absolutely, we've been. It's been raining press releases here for sure for the new Innsbruck course.
Indeed, and that will be the subject of much of this Zwiftcast, and of course, Nathan Garrow, yo, dude.
Yo, Simon. Hey, Shane. Good to see you. Oh, not see you guys. Hear you guys from the other side of the world.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of a story behind where I am, which I will reveal during the course of the podcast. But I'm sitting in my car at the moment with a mobile studio set up, and I'll.
Can you prove that by tooting the car horn? Right about now? Can you toot the car horn?
Hang on. Yeah, I'll have to turn the engine on. Hang on one sec.
We're going to put you to the task.
There's the car starting up noise. Hang on.
There it is.
Here we go. Okay,
confirmed. Simon is in the car.
Confirmed. Yeah. No, I'll explain. I'll explain why later. Just let me say at this point, Virgin Media, I love you so much. Okay, here we go. It's midsummer. The tour is over. The Vuelta hasn't started yet. Seems like a great time to launch a new course on Zwift. Well, yeah, it is actually, because it's tied to the last big cycling event on the calendar, the Worlds in late September. And as you'll all know by now, the new course is a faithful reproduction of part of the Worlds Circuit in Innsbruck, Austria. The hilliest parkour for that particular event in like a gazillion years, and Zwift ain't flattened it out any. This is one hilly beast, Jane.
For sure. We saw the teaser come out, probably, was it a month or two ago, about what was coming, but we weren't quite sure what the hills involved. And it just so happened to be, I was in the neighbourhood about 2 weeks ago, and DC Rainmaker and myself rode the short loop. And look, it wasn't too bad, but we were sort of more rubbernecking. We were looking at the Alps and looking at the beautiful scenery and looking at everything. We weren't taking it too seriously. But when it was released on Zwift and we rode it, it was, there's even the flat course has a climb. That's how not flat it is.
Yeah. And I mean, the main climb, Nathan, the main climb. I saw a post somewhere in the recesses of the internet after you would just ridden the main climb, which said words to the equivalent of "holy cow."
Yeah, OMG with some expletives in the hashtag was here we go. I thought, 27 miles, 50 plus K, no big deal for the longer one. I'll do my little preview of all this because, I got a little preview of it before it actually released. So I jumped on and started riding and it went right. And I just thought that was the way we go. And later found out that wasn't the normal way that we go. And all of a sudden I'm hitting like 12, 13, 15% grade. And I'm thinking, is this just the tower climb like for an hour or something? Like I was really, I was a little bit taken back. Oh man, this is definitely a climber's course for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's a climber's course. The other thing is I'm not convinced it's a newbie's course, but we'll get to talking about that. Well, in fact, I'll ask you now, Shade. I mean, the thing is, the way it looks, I mean, if we compare this with Richmond, which is the obvious comparison because it's the other UCI Worlds course, I mean, the way it looks is absolutely fantastic. It is extremely attractive. The detail is absolutely stunning. For the very first time in Zwift, we've got cars and lorries. Thankfully, we're completely separated from them. It's just a spectator sport rather than a death match like it often is when you're riding on the roads. And it does look great. And there is this linkage to the UCI and the Worlds for the second time for Zwift. Here's my question to you, Shane. Is this a smart move for Zwift? Because they're now on record as saying we've kind of hoovered up all the hardcore cyclists, and the next stage of growth for the company is going to come from appealing to, let's say, softcore cyclists. Oh, not those kind of hardcore roadies who know what the UCI is, know what the Worlds are, know what the significance of it is. Question, usual ridiculously long preamble, but question, is this the right choice? Is this the right choice of course?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. It really is, because I think this goes to promote cycling itself, because a lot of us are competitive cyclists, but we mightn't be fans of the sport. We mightn't follow the sport at the competition level, at the professional level. This sort of appeals to us, us hardcore cyclists definitely. The softer cyclists, the more recreational, I guess you'd call them, the recreational cyclists. As I said, that flat loop has a 400 meter at 7% climb in it one way, and 800 meter at about 4% climb the other way. It's tough. Locking into exclusively just this world is too much of an ask, I think, for everybody, for the entire spectrum of Zwifters out there, which was from people who jump on and do 5 kilometers on the bike to people who jump on and do 50 kilometers on the bike or 50 miles on the bike. This is too much of an ask for sure. We need something like world selection so people can have a little bit. I said it.
How long? You said, we are going to discuss that because the release of this course has yet again highlighted this running sore of world switching. But let's pause for that and allow you to conclude your thoughts on whether this is the right choice, of course.
Yeah, so look, I love the fact that we can ride this course ourselves and pretend to be Peter Sagan getting dropped on the climb, which is inevitably what's going to happen in this. And it's going to be familiar with us. When the World Championships are on, I'll be looking at that and watching it as a fan away from Zwift, knowing the course. So that's kind of cool. It sort of branches out our experience with Zwift.
But for you, it's cool, Shane, for a couple of reasons. One, you're kind of, let's say, you're a hardcore roadie. 2, you know the significance of the UCI Worlds. 3, you've actually been and ridden part of the course. So for all of those reasons, I can see it's I can see it's super appealing for you. But to the new guy or girl who gets on Zwift and, pedals to that hill, and they've just bought their smart trainer and they get to the bottom of a 16% 5k long climb or whatever the stats are, that's
it's a tough one.
Exactly. It is super tough, but hey, who said cycling was easy?
It's a timing thing, and I think Zwift want to do this every year, and so deal with UCI, and it's here, and let's just make it happen. And we heard of things about New York. Next thing you know, it was Innsbruck, and what the heck? I think it has something to do with look, we really need to partner with the cycling world in this kind of way. So let's just make this happen now. And so I have a feeling it has more to do with the reality of worlds coming than what maybe necessarily the aim in market goes. And also there's a reality that your everyday cyclist might be jumping on Zwift more in the fall and winter, and that the attraction to Zwift might be better around UCI Worlds and major events that the hardcore cyclists are paying attention to. I just think there's a lot of timing things.
Yeah, I agree with that. In some ways, they're tied to the diary, and that we know is the reason why what we can now talk about publicly as New York with a twist, which is what Steve Beck calls it. He's talked about that publicly, so we can now. I guess that's one of the reasons that that was postponed, and I think his common knowledge it was postponed anyway. It is now. I mean, that was going to be released, and then it wasn't, we got Innsbruck instead. Okay, well, let's concentrate on the actual kind of nuts and bolts of Innsbruck for a few moments now, and I'm sure we'll return to this subject shortly. World switching, say no more. But let's wrap up for just the moment with a great chat with Tony Irugas, the man at ZHQ who led the team who designed Innsbruck. And I know those guys are working under quite a lot of pressure, actually. I got to chat to him about the kind of research process and what went into the course. And this conversation took place way before it was completed. It was in early June, I think. And I started asking him about the research process.
Pretty much what you're seeing here is just basic terrain that we've imported, like a grayscale map that we found, and we've imported some GPX data from the actual UCI course and brought it into Zwift. And this is kind of what it looks like.
How long would it take you to get to this stage?
This was probably about half a month's worth of work. So also with the road, there's been some tweaking because there's noise with GPX. So, I would have sat here and moved nodes up and down to try to get it right to match up with Strava.
And again, you're looking for as GPX accurate as it's possible to get within the confines of Zwift.
Yes. I mean, it's never going to be, truly 100% accurate. I don't think anything ever would be. We work hard to try to get it as close as possible. We spend, plenty of time doing that. And we even edit it up until we ship. We have multiple people write it. We have people who wrote it in the real world come and write it. Just give feedback. This climb isn't really a climb. It shouldn't be here.
So talk me through a little of the research process that's gone into this to get the terrain as accurate as it's going to be.
It almost always just starts out with Google Maps, right? Just a Google search. What are we actually looking at? What kind of terrain is there? What's the kind of vibe of the city? And then we send people to the actual location. We had a couple people write it, so we have all their, fit files. We have pictures. We stuck 360 cams on their head. So we have plenty of 360 footage of the entire course. And that'll kind of just give us a little bit more detailed ground level. We can kind of match up what we see in Zwift to actually what is there currently.
That 360 footage must be such a precious resource.
Especially in Innsbruck, because there isn't really Google Street View in a lot of parts of Innsbruck. So the 360 footage is huge for us. Each thing that we put out, we try to push it a little bit further every time. Richmond was kind of the first experiment with that. How close can we get it to feeling like it actually is in the real world?
I've been to Innsbruck. I mean, one of the massive visual features, of course, of it is the ski jump. Is that going to figure?
Yeah, we actually have the ski jump. But yeah, the ski jump was one of the first things that we kind of saw, and it was unique. It's like, oh man, we should definitely put this in here.
Some Zwifters are going to wonder whether they might ever be able to ride their bikes down a ski jump and something very gamey happens. What's the betting on that, Tony?
I don't know. I mean, we're constantly trying to figure out how gamey to make certain things, like what elements we could bring in just to keep it interesting. Because new road is fun. Just make a jump or something. Let's see what we can do.
So that's not a yes and not a no, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's probably in the middle somewhere.
And how much do you think this real world course is going to have developed from Richmond? I mean, what have you learned in the... It must be 2 years now since Richmond came out.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, with Richmond, it was the first time that we used the level editor in a big attempt. So now we have new tools, we have new pipelines, we have new workflows. We're constantly getting new tools as well to kind of help with the process. So I have a good feeling that this will be leagues above Richmond. Quality-wise.
And Richmond didn't kind of evolve much. There weren't many iterations of it. Do you think something like Innsbruck, there could be greater iterations in the future, more detail added, more features added?
We've definitely already discussed kind of adding on to Innsbruck, to kind of help get by that Richmond aspect where Richmond just stayed Richmond.
Yeah.
We added some new turns here and there, but we didn't really add too much to it. And we kind of, since this is a newer course, and if we're going to put that much effort into it, we kind of want to keep it around for a bit. So there's already been talks about expanding it in the future.
And what from this kind of initial layout, what are you seeing that excites you?
Well, knowing this entire area is a climb, I really enjoy the fields in here. I think it's a cool look. It has a cool vibe. And the mountains, I mean, the first thing you notice when looking at the video that we've captured, it's just almost everywhere you look, you can see huge mountains in the distance with big chunky clouds. It just feels awesome. So,
panoramic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm excited at the idea of having these giant mountains in the background.
Thanks for the great early look at Innsbruck, Tony. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
Right on!
Shane, the realism thing, I mean, my, this has come on since Richmond, hasn't it? And you are like super well placed to judge, having really visited Innsbruck. So reality versus Zwift, who wins on this one? Has Zwift got the realism absolutely spot on? Has it been leavened with enough kind of Zwiftiness to make it what will appeal to Zwifters who've never been to Innsbruck and don't know what the UCI Worlds course is?
Again, having been there, it feels familiar because I rode up there, and in the background there were the Austrian Alps. And in game there, usually I just look at that and go, oh, great, they just put a picture of some hills in the background. No, they're really there. So for me, it's more escapism knowing that it was there. And for sure, they've actually, the piles of wood on the side of the road, they're really there. The little steps, the little snow steps up right near the top on the right-hand side. Again, you'd never see this if you didn't know they were there. You just I think it's artwork. They are really there. I reckon they've done a great job. The gradients are spot on. And the effort, unfortunately, is also spot on. It's hard to ride.
Yeah. No, absolutely top marks for realism. And I do know they spent like a ton of time making sure the GPS was absolutely accurate, or as accurate as it can be. Which brings us on to some of the marketing, or much of the marketing around this, which is, if you look on the UCI site where they announced the partnership with Zwift, much is made of the pros. I can't remember what size teams there are in the Worlds, actually, but there's going to be something like 150 pros using Zwift, apparently, are going to be using Zwift as a recon tool for, I don't know, strategy, tactics, planning, team tactics, just getting used to the course, getting to know what the hills feel like when they crop up with reference to the visual landscape. Nathan, almost impossible question to answer, really. But do you think pros really will use this as part of their recon?
I would. I can't put myself in anybody else's shoes too much, but I would definitely be doing intervals like crazy on the specific places that I thought I was going to attack. I guess you're asking kind of the right person, because I did 90% of my training for mountain biking, of all things, on Zwift. Right. But I would go and I would find parts of Zwift that would represent the kind of course I was going into and do repeated intervals on that part of the course. Having it even be the course representation digitally in front of you, I think, is a good stress response, so that when you get there, there is familiarity both in effort and also in what you're seeing. And then it's just going to be riding it once you get there.
It kind of makes sense, Shane, doesn't it? I mean, Sagan will no doubt be rehearsing endlessly the exact spot on the course where he's going to get dropped.
Yeah, look, for sure. I don't think, as touching on what Nathan said there, and we did discuss this on one of our live streams the other day as we both rode the course together with a big group, that the pros are all across the training that is required for the demands of the course. They've broken this down months and months ago. People will be doing efforts that replicate what the demands of the course away from Zwift, even away from their indoor trainers. They'll be doing it outdoors in the beautiful sunshine of wherever they train there as professional cyclists. So maybe not for specific training, but we've all done it before, and everyone will know, listening, from beginner level cyclists to professionals, if you're in a race or in a really stressful situation where you are on the rivet, your heart rate maximum, you can't think about too much. You can't really estimate distance. It's just about the effort. So being familiar with, say, the run into the finish, where it comes over, through the sprint point there, and it sort of drops down over the bridge a little bit. If you were to do that in training many times in that zone, you can familiarize yourself with the landmarks and the turns and the corners. So when it happens in the race, or if you're in that position in the race, you're not in unfamiliar territory. It becomes a reaction rather than a thinking process. So I think a lot of pros will be using it for that purpose.
Well, no, it does make complete sense when you spend any time thinking about it. I mean, if they're going to do an indoor session or a specific targeted session, why not do it on Innsbruck if you're going to be in one of the teams for Innsbruck? Why would you not, I guess, would be the question. And also, we do know, because we all endlessly see the videos, that, it is now standard practice for, certainly in the big Grand Tours, for a member of the backroom team to go and do a GoPro video, certainly of the last 3K, 2K, 1K, and for the team to sit and watch that in the bus before the stage. I mean, we've all seen that taking place. So, I think there will be some pros. Maybe, like you say, maybe not planning their training around Zwift because the physiologists and the whole of the staff will have planned this like weeks and months out. But I'm sure it will figure partly in their familiarisation and recon process for the Worlds. It'd be a big surprise if it didn't. I mean, obviously a good time, I think, to just return to this subject of the pros on Zwift. And the Tour has just finished, left a huge tour-shaped hole in my life, but I'm getting over it. And the Tour has finished, and by some estimates, about a third, just think about that, a third. So that's 60-ish riders out of 180-ish riders. A third of the Tour peloton are thought to be Zwifters. Now, some have done a lot more Ks than others. But here's a quick, non-exhaustive list of Tour riders who've done more than 1,000 kilometres on Zwift. Edvald Bosenhagen is often spotted. No surprise then that he's the Tour rider with the highest number of Zwift Ks, with almost 10,000 kilometres ridden. Robert Hessing, who impressed in the Tour with some sustained attacks, is also a Zwift veteran, more than 5,000 kilometres ridden. Thomas de Gent, who was in practically every single breakaway on the Tour, is a prolific Zwifter with nearly 3,500 kilometres under his belt. Adam Yates, Andy Greipel, Warren Barguy, yellow jersey wearer Greg van Avermaet, stage winner Magnus Cort, Lawrence Tendam, and the brave Lanterne Rouge this year, Lawson Craddock, who got injured in a crash early doors but soldiered on to complete the Tour. They all count themselves as proper Zwifters. And last, but in no way least, one Mark Cavendish. He's clocked up over 2,000 kilometres on Zwift. And to be honest, I've never heard him speak about it that much beyond social media posts. So at the launch of the Zwift Academy in London last month, it was interesting to hear him talk quite candidly about his Zwift experience. Turns out he likes racing and hates cheats. Who knew?
It's the closest thing you can get without being in a peloton, It really is, Like, to the point, like, I lose my head even if I'm in my own thing, do my own. I lose my head if someone comes past me. You still get the cheats. It's worse than doping. Zwift, it's doping. Zwift cheating is doping, man. And you get the odd person that comes on and they sprint past you. I lose my head with it, That's how competitive I get on it. So. And
with Innsbruck being touted as a training tool for the Worlds for the pros, does Cav feel Zwift is realistic as a specific recce of the course?
Like you've got to climb. I know how long climbs are, say, on Zwift, but I'm not really looking at a 20-minute effort. You can see the top of the climb, and you go into the top of the climb, and that's what I really like about it. It's like being in, it is you. It's in a real world kind of simulation, and that's what I really like about it. You really put, if you feel good, you just go a bit harder. You can see your power, you can see everything that's going on at the time. But at the end of the day, it's more about riding. Like I have to confess, I don't really use the training things and that. I know they work for a lot of people, and I think it's wicked what you can do with it. What I am is the freedom to go and ride, and that's really how it feels. I'll be in my gym at home, but I really feel like I'm out in Watopia or whatever.
And finally, although I think we all feel we do see Cav quite a lot on Zwift, he was asked how much he really uses it.
There's times I'm doing it every day. The thing that, well, right now, like obviously with the Tour, I've been doing specific stuff, which I can do on Zwift, but I, like with new bikes and that for the Tour, I like to get a feel on the road. But honestly, there's times when I don't. It's like I wake up and I'd rather, like, it would never ever. This would never have happened. Like you went on an indoor train if it was pissing down rain outside. Now I wake up. No, you know what? I'd rather go on Zwift. I need specific stuff, and I can get that better from riding Zwift now than I would at getting on the road. And that's completely. This time last year, I would never have said that, and now I'll choose to go on Zwift. Sometimes in the winter, I was on every day for a month, and even when I was coming after my crash in Milan San Remo, I was on twice a day for a month, and you really feel that strength come up.
Well, that was Cav, recorded before the tour. He looked so relaxed and happy on that occasion. And then the next time you saw him, well, not quite the next time you saw him, but a little time after, there was that. I don't know whether you saw it, lads. Actually, I saw it. It was crushingly disappointing for Cav to get eliminated. I mean, he came in on that stage something like an hour and 3 minutes, I think, behind the peloton. And I don't know whether either of you two saw it. There was a very, very, very brief video clip. The whole of the Tour circus had to wait for Cav to finish. I mean, he could have jumped in the car halfway up the last climb, but there were a lot of people who said no. He probably knew he was going to be eliminated, but he wanted to respect the race and actually cross the finish line for the stage. And there was one camera, well, there's probably more than one cameraman, but there was one video guy there to record it. And did you see this clip? Cav saw him and kind of fixed him with like the evil eye, and then like basically deliberately rode into him. It just shoulder charged him out of the way. Cav making a point, okay, I know I'm eliminated. I don't need a global TV audience to see it, although, maybe that's what you should expect. But it did rather sum up his tour. A very, very, very poignant moment that was. 4 stage wins to get the Eddie Merckx record. Can he do it, Shane? Do you think he'll be back as a serious force, as a sprinter, when you look at the young guys coming through now?
Nope. Well, I don't know. Well, it's look, I don't think any of us really know what he's going through, why he's at that level he's at. I mean, obviously, it's a high level to be selected for the Tour de France, but there's one thing I will say: getting to the level he's at is one thing, but staying there and having that drive to win is another thing altogether. The motivation to do it again and again and again has to be there. It has to be right and true, and you've got to want it with 110%. Look, we've all probably had it with the same, with our riding as well at a much lower level. Is, do we ride the same path again and again that we've already ridden? Is the motivation there? So it depends on what he's going through, whether it's physiological, whether it's mental. I'm sure he's got some great people around him to, we'll be able to see whether he can be back or not. I eagerly await that. He's definitely a champion. He's got stripes on his shoulders for a good reason. And let's see what happens in the future.
I mean, I do think he does have the motivation, actually. I mean, the will to win, and as proved by that little anecdote about him not being happy about filmed coming over the line and being eliminated. He hates losing and he loves winning. And that is always written across Cav's face at the end of any stage. You can take one glance at Cav's face and know immediately where he finished in that day's stage. So I think the motivation is still there. I just think, Nathan, he's probably a bit of a victim of so the slightly touchy subject for me, getting a bit older, really, and the new generation of sprinters coming through are, they're now, some of them 10 years younger than Cav, and just that bit stronger, I'm afraid.
I think there are some super hungry athletes coming up. I think that to contend with Clubber Lang, you can't be injured. Okay. That's all you can't. And so for those that don't know Rocky, Mr. T came into Rocky 3 and just whooped on him. You know what I mean? And he was mentally injured. He was handicapped a little bit in ways, distraction. I don't know the personal story behind it. I'm not going to assume any of that's going on, but I do know there was injury, right? Multiple. And trying to come back from that at the highest level of power that he needs to be at is really difficult. Like, sprint power is something that just it has to be built over. Plus also there's the reality of the team he had around him before. I'm not sure it's the same team he has now too. I remember HTC days of just being unstoppable. Sure, he was younger then, but the team that was around him then was, oh my gosh, just drilled. Yeah. I mean, it was the military, it looked like to me. You know what I mean? I mean, it was, and if you can put that around Cav, I think he can still find the kick without injury. I don't think he can just bounce back as quickly now. I think it's still possible, personally. Maybe that's a little bit of me coming through thinking it's still possible too, though. So, anyways, I'm with it. I'm with it for Cav. I'm with it for Cav to get it done. It's not that many away, and I have a feeling there's that same want to get a record on the books. Why not go for it?
Yeah. Well, I think we all wish him well. I mean, I think we all feel a bit of a connection with Cav because you do see him popping up on Zwift. More than sometimes. His mate Mark Renshaw needs to get his ass in gear. Actually, he's only done 27 kilometres on Zwift, even though he is a Zwifter. So, come on, Renshaw, get your ass in the saddle on Zwift. Okay, well, let's just turn back because we can't ignore it, and we have previewed it, and we should talk about it. The big story this week being Innsbruck, and still the community is denied the ability to choose which world they want to ride in. I mean, we've now got 4 worlds. And still, the overlords at ZHQ or ZHQ decide on the basis of, schedule, marketing, servers, who knows? They decide the schedule for us and they decide where we can ride. I mean, I actually can't believe we're still talking about this. So, Nathan, can you give me one good reason why you think they might be pursuing with this unbelievably unpopular policy of denying us the ability to switch worlds?
I think that it's summer and the fear of people riding alone, logging in, being a new Zwifter and seeing that many people around, retention. These are guesses. I have no idea, but I think we've heard that. But we've heard that before, though. We've heard that before.
Exactly. That holds good for summer. It doesn't hold good for winter. I mean, as people have been saying on Facebook, it was a goddamn conga line through Richmond on certain days last year. So
you just look and see where there's more people, and if there's more people and you want to ride with them, you go to that world. If there's less people, you go to the market can decide. Give us some freedom. We have world switching. Okay, I logged in for the Norseman to do. I did the 3 horsemen, not the 4, because I had a stream I had to go do. Okay, there's my excuse. But I kind of enjoyed okay, but the other thing is they put me on a TT bike without even asking. And then I didn't have a wheel swap without even asking. And all of a sudden I'm on a TT bike and I don't have my fastest wheels and we're off at 5 watts per kilo. What? That was a frustrating situation. There's my little vent on the world swap. But and we have world swap. I log in, I'm on Innsbruck and it says, hey, the 4 horsemen is on Norseman ride is on Watopia. And it puts me over on Watopia. World swapping is in the game. We just aren't allowed to have it. It's like...
Oh, yeah. No, world swap, it is in the game. And they're using it, either through some cunning plan or in a random fashion. I don't quite understand why, because it's never explained to us. They're using it. It looks like, Shane, possibly... I mean, one reason might be possibly they're deploying world switching tactically to grow events, perhaps. That could be a reason.
Yeah, look, there was once a reason to keep everyone together, and that was called Jarvis Island. And the reason being is there was 9 of us riding at any one time, and there was only one island. Once there was a reason to keep everyone together. So I don't believe that reason exists anymore. There's enough people who can make up their own mind about where they want to ride. I can't think of any other computer game or simulation where you don't get that choice. It's sort of forced on you, which, again, as we were discussing about the Innsbruck course, even the flat course is pretty hilly. That doesn't appeal to everybody. So we need to be able to choose our courses. And my little protest on that this week was to release my Zwift tip on the World Hack and using a little tool to choose the world that you want to ride in. I don't like doing things that really can technically break terms and terms and services and conditions of what we've agreed to, not mucking around with config files. But as I said, it's my little protest. I did a little video about how you can choose to ride the world that you want to ride. It does have other ramifications, so buyer beware.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, boys, there's some kind of deep, dark fear somewhere at the top of Zwift that if they put world switching on and they make it like super easy to use, and I know it exists now, but not everybody likes messing with prefs.xml files. Or even using that other little hack, which means that you don't have to do that. Not everybody likes doing that. To be honest, I actually can't be asked to do that, really. Because I don't see why I should have to. But anyway, do you think, their kind of deepest, darkest fears are that if they make all 4 worlds available at once, what you get is a kind of instant popularity poll, And everybody knows that, Richmond might not win that, and that Watopia would absolutely walk away with that.
This exists, Simon, in another game, 100% right now. And there's another game community complaining about it. A huge amount of work went into Miramar in PUBG. It's a huge map that's really kind of boring. I'm sorry. Nobody really likes it. And it takes forever to play through. And the only people who like it seems to be people who just like to play Minecraft in a shooting game and go collect things and sit around for a really long time. And the most popular map is the fast action map where everything kind of happens really quickly. And there's kind of an in-between map where it's kind of mid-size and people can kind of hang out, but at the same time, the interaction happens a little quicker. And they force you kind of, if you want to play the mid-sized map, then you kind of have to get thrown into the queue with the big map and take the chance of playing that map too, because they're afraid nobody wants to play it. That's the reality. And I don't know if that's Zwift's. I'm not saying that that's what Zwift's up to, but that is happening in other games right now where that the devs put all this work in and they're like, we really want you guys to use this because took us a year to make this thing.
Yeah. Do you think that's it, Shane? Do you think that, they're worried about hurting Richmond's feelings?
No one loves Richmond. Yeah, I think that might be a case if they don't want to see wasted resources, because I know a lot of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of work hours have gone into that. Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, create gamification. Yeah. How about this? What if on certain worlds we had cool quests on a certain day?
More guns.
And then
guns.
And then on that day, you had Watopia reward day, or go ride this course on this day, or you could do any number of them, and then you could pick a certain
double the
one
XP on
day.
Richmond.
Or whatever, like encouragements to ride those days. But if you didn't want to, you could do something else.
Yeah, there are ways to solve this.
Look, it's going to have to be addressed soon. They're going to have to fun it up. Rather than not have what they have now. So yeah, it's going to have to change up because things need to be fresh.
Wasn't funded up.
F-U-N. That's my Aussie accent coming through. It does go other way sometimes. They're going to have to refresh this or keep it fresh because computer games do age. We're not playing Wolfenstein anymore. We're not playing Doom. We're not playing Quake. Well, some people are still playing Counter-Strike. They're going to make sure people are still on Zwift. So they're going to have to change that experience up.
Well, do you know what? It's good you raised that, Shane, because this was going to be my last point around this discussion of Innsbruck, and it might be seen in some quarters as somewhat controversial. This Innsbruck is great. The work that's gone into it is absolutely fantastic. The level of detail is brilliant. The GPS reproduction of accuracy is amazing. You look at Innsbruck compared to Richmond, you can see how much has come on. I mean, Tony in that interview said they've got more tools to work with, and it's so clear that. But here's the thing. If Zwift is a cake, and the different icings are Richmond, Watopia, Innsbruck and London. If the recipe of the cake, if the ingredients of the cake remain the same, and every couple of months we just get some new icing, is that enough? Is that enough?
I'm hungry. Your analogy is lost on me. I'm just hungry. Very, very.
Well, no, I guess what I mean is that the courses are like the dressings, aren't they? They're the dressings you put on the salad. But if the ingredients of the salad don't change, in other words, the things that Zwift as a platform can do or not do, as in at the moment we are an avatar on a rail going around a pretend place. We can't steer. There are no crosswinds. There are no tactics we can deploy in racing, and that has not changed forever and shows no sign of changing.
I think what you're touching on there, that's the gaming experience. Yeah, that's the gaming experience, and that's where the hardware manufacturers have come in and have changed up a little bit. We have, I guess, say the kicker climb, so we can go up and down. We have people looking at rocker plates, and we've seen how popular rocker plates have been in the community. So people are changing that experience. So people are modifying that cake recipe themselves. And for sure, you are right. It does need to keep changing up and keep fresh, or the cake gets a bit stale.
Yeah, well, that was my question to Nathan. I think I know what the answer is going to be. Is it stale, Nathan? Do we need some fresh ingredients? Does this Victoria sponge need to become a fruitcake?
Oh my goodness.
I'm hungry.
I just got done racing, and that was pretty fun. Racing someone. That'll keep me coming back. Honestly, but I don't want to do much else, if that makes sense. And that only works a couple times a week at most. And yeah, I'd have to agree that otherwise I play Overwatch while I Zwift, and Zwift stands in the background. I mean, but I've been on the platform for 3.5 years. I think I'm top 5 in miles. You know what I mean? But there's other Zwifters who've been hanging out on my channel for almost the same amount of time. I've got a 3-year Zwifter who was in ZVA Zwift recently with a very popular post, actually. And I think there's quite a few chiming in on that. So yeah, I don't think we're the only one. We're not just griping to gripe. You know what I mean? Like, there is a sentiment that's growing.
The thrust of that post was, I might be the canary in the coal mine. I might have done too many miles on Zwift. I might have been here too long, but I'm getting bored. That was the thrust of that post, was it not?
It was. Yep. Yeah, it was. 100%. And she does other things while she Zwifts now. And I said the same thing, that unless it's an interactive experience like racing, and she said that too, was racing's still fun, and that's a different experience because it's interactive. But unless I'm racing, my base miles, I turn on ERG mode, make sure it's 220. Any program can do that. That's kind of like this. And then I go and play Overwatch or Hearthstone and communicate with my viewers, because that kind of keeps me going too, live streaming and people to talk to, voice chat maybe too. I mean, that obviously that's what I'm looking for, is an experience of other people while I'm streaming. That's part of the reason why the streaming keeps me going for the long periods of time. And then an interactive experience like a game like Overwatch or whatever, something competitive if I'm not racing. So
Shane, a post in a minority Facebook group full of grumpy people who've been around too long, saying, okay, I've been on Zwift too long, I'm bored now, the game has not moved on, that's probably a 1%. Actually, of the user base is probably maybe 0.5%, whatever. It's a very, very, very small number. Is that an opinion Zwift should care about? Is that a canary in the coal mine, or is that Zwift just saying, well, you know what, we don't need those people anymore because there's going to be a whole load this winter. There's going to be like 200,000 new people coming onto the platform. So what do we care about? The person who's been around too long and has just got a bit stale with it.
Those posts are the posts that should be in the board meetings in Zwift. They are the ones that they do really, really need to listen to, because that will explain why people churn away. Now, when people churn away from products, sometimes you say, yeah, why are you unsubscribing? And you'll fill in a little form. I'm not sure there's any little form for them to really get some feedback as to why people churn. So that 1% of people who are communicating why they're getting a bit bored, why they might churn away, that needs to be really put under the microscope and addressed, for sure, because that will be representation of a lot more than just 1%. It may be, let's just say, 50% of why people churn. And as a business model, they need to look at that and get people on the platform and keep them in the ecosystem, keep it fresh, keep it exciting, keep that. I've got cake on the mind now, but keep that cake fresh and tasty. And I think, look, to be honest, guys, I think it's also our responsibility to come up with ideas and ways to promote the platform, because we still love it. So we just need to make sure that we contribute to the positiveness of getting on there and sharing our experience as well. That's what I try and do with my channel, and I guess that's what the Zwiftcast does, Nathan. That's what your live streams do. Yeah. And I can see that, but it can. I do have echoes of what was posted there for sure. But as I said before, it's got to keep fresh. The experience has got to be there. And there's a few things around the corner. The new course has done that a little bit. But again, we get hungrier and hungrier the more we eat, to use the eating analogy again. So I don't know. But yeah, I do think they should need to take notice of those posts for sure.
Yeah. No, me too. Just to let listeners know that I'm seeing a little car park here. And Basically, it's my internet.
Are you in the Richmond car park? There's a Richmond car park under the train line there. Is that where you're parked? You're the only person on Richmond today.
I'm in a car park because my internet at home is broken. And I thought it'd be nice and quiet here to actually make that 3 dudes in orange high-vis clothing have just shown up. You know those pieces of equipment you see being used in the street, which are possibly the noisiest things in the entire world. that they used to cut up stones.
Yes.
You know those things with a very,
Yes.
very, very big spinning disc. I think they're called angle grinders or something like that. Anyway, I've got one actually. They're a very noisy thing. He's just started up with one of those. So thanks for that, guys. Thank you very much.
We don't hear it. I think you're all good.
Well, I've got a windscreen between it, and this mic actually is also very directional, so we might be okay. But yeah, I thought it'd be nice and quiet here, and it's not. Anyway, okay. Well, that was an interesting discussion. I mean, we remain and keep the flag flying, the torch burning. You know, we stay enthusiastic about it, but a post like that, you know, and there was another guy, Chris O'Hearn, actually, who put like a ton of work into organising a really successful, well thought through, meticulously planned and novel race series last year. And, you know, he put a slightly depressing post up just saying that he just didn't feel he was getting enough cooperation from ZHQ and he wasn't going to do it anymore. And, you know, to me, they are canaries in the coal mine. And I genuinely think the management should be a little concerned when they see things like that. Anyway, that all sounds a bit like sour grapes in the week we've got a new course out, but, you know, always a good idea, I think, to look beyond the next Austrian mountain, perhaps. Okay, well, there is a new podcast for Zwifters. Yes, a new podcast for Zwifters. And here's me promoting it. Well, actually, I'm very pleased to promote it because it's a great podcast. It's really specifically for Zwift racers. It's called In the Pens. It's hosted by Greg Leo and Adam Zimmerman, both good solid Zwift racers. And I caught up with Greg for a bit of a chat about In the Pens and what it's all about. Welcome to the Zwiftcast to Greg Leo. Hi, Greg.
How you doing, Simon?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Now, I'm sure your name will be incredibly familiar to every Zwifter in the known universe, but you are. I mean, introduce yourself. You're a racer, but you've also started a Zwift racing podcast. So, give me the 20-second version of Greg Leo.
I can do that. I'm absolutely a racer, and only a racer on Zwift. I pretty much spend all my time on Zwift racing. The podcast is In the Pens, how to race better, how to get into racing, everything Zwift racing. We try not to overlap too much with Zwiftcast. We're pretty niche, and you can find it at inthepens.com.
Excellent. Well, I've had to listen to your first few episodes, and it's great, actually. I mean, it's terrific and really good to see racing being catered for in a with a specialist podcast. So more power to your elbow, Greg. So I've got you on to talk about a couple of things, really. I mean, let's start with the big news of the day or the week or possibly even the month, which is the release of Innsbruck. And seeing as you're a racer guy, let's angle the conversation towards racing. What do you think of it as a race course?
So my take on the course, just from doing kind of recon rides, is that the climb itself, the Lucia climb, isn't going to add much. We already have Watopia KOM, and the Lucia climb is very similar. It's a bit steeper, but similar in length, similar in altitude gain. So that's not going to be adding too much. But I think the Innsbruck Ring brings a lot. It kind of fills a gap in Zwift racing. In the Innsbruck Ring, there's a very steep 45-second climb that's really going to break up groups on what would otherwise be a very flat course where everyone would stay together. So I think this is going to be an interesting addition to Zwift racing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's going to be a good one. But I mean, the long, steep climb with kind of sections of between 12 and 14, 16%. I mean, that's a course for the climbers, surely.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think we'll see too much actual racing on that course. Just like right now, we don't see too much racing on the Epic KOM or Alpe d'Huez Zwift. Most of the climbing that happens in races is on the shorter climbs, like Box Hill. So I don't think we'll actually see much racing on the Lucia climb.
Yeah, yeah. So that's short. I mean, it's short. It's a short, mainly flat city course with a little kicker of a climb in it. I mean, do you think the big guys will get over that? In a big group, if they hit it at speed, is it short enough to get kind of pulled up in a big group with a hard effort from the bigger guys?
Yeah, it's not long enough that it's going to benefit the climbers. So it's definitely not a climber's hill. It's a hill that's going to benefit anyone who has a very good, like 1 minute power, 1 minute, maybe watt per kilogram kind of power. But the rest of the course is flat enough and it goes right into a downhill that I don't think this course is really going to disadvantage larger guys. I think it's going to be really powerful guys with a strong sprint that are going to do well on this course.
I mean, I think racing's had a really tough few months on Zwift. I mean, the whole Zwift Power, and it wasn't their fault, but the whole Zwift Power debacle really hasn't helped matters. Frank Garcia in the last few days has announced that CVR is not running its fall season. I mean, racing is taken a few knocks, don't you think, over the past few weeks, months?
I think you're right. It's definitely been a lot quieter in Zwift for racing lately. As far as the Zwift Power thing goes, it was, it was kind of unfortunate not to have it for those months. But I have to give credit to them. They brought it back, and they took the time to really improve things there. And there's a lot of new impressive features there that I think when winter comes and people start to come back to racing, it's going to make things even better than it was last winter.
And Frank's decision, I mean, he explained it at some length and kind of, in short form. He felt his team that had been running CVR had got a bit stretched, and he just felt that a fall season was too much for his organisation. I think that's it in kind of probably horribly oversimplified terms. But there might be another story behind that we don't know. I mean, are you interpreting that as a weakening of the appeal or the durability or the longevity or perhaps even the profitability of Zwift racing? I mean, how do you see Frank's move there?
One thing I'll say is, after participating in a live event, I kind of see the work that goes into it. When you watch in the stream, you see the polished final product, and it makes it kind of look easy. But, seeing the guts of a live event, both at CVR and at the Kiss Crit, it's a big thing to put on. It's a lot of organization, and it is a lot of work. So, when Frank says that his team is stretched, I can definitely believe that. As for the profitability, I just have no idea. It's obviously, it just takes a lot of money to do this. But, I don't know much about the finances of how much are coming in from streaming and things like that.
Me neither. And Frank's always been upfront that, he would like eventually to turn a profit on this. And there's no doubt whatsoever that he has invested, pretty large sums, largely of his own money in trying to make it happen. I mean, do you think, of course, we've got to take his decision at face value, but, what we like to do a lot on the Zwiftcast, and maybe you'll start doing it on In the Pen Screw, because we like to speculate, we like to read beyond the public statement. I mean, do you think Frank is perhaps realising that making any kind of money out of this might be harder than even he at his most optimistic and energetic, which is, Frank is both of those things. Do you think it, do you think the worm might have turned a little bit in his thinking in that way?
Maybe what has happened is that, just standard racing on Zwift has turned out not to be as attractive maybe to watch for in streaming as we initially thought. It's a pretty specific thing to watch, let's say, indoor bike racing. And maybe the audience for just a standard race isn't there. So it could be that what CVR is seeing is, they need to kind of retool what they're doing to make it more exciting. I know that, part of Frank's announcement is that they have big plans for the winter. They have this team event coming. This season they tried the points race. So it could be that part of the decision to cancel this season is that maybe they're going to put a lot of work into figuring out what the right format is to bring in more viewers, or what kind of angles are going to bring in more viewers. That would be one guess.
Are you enjoying the podcasting?
I am. It's harder work than I imagined.
Yeah.
It's another situation where you see the polished finished product and you don't see the work that goes into making a podcast. So kudos to you for for putting together an amazing podcast pretty frequently.
Well, I wasn't compliment fishing, Greg, but I'll take it, man. I'll take it. Thank you for that. I genuinely wish you all the very best with it, Greg, and excellent to get your take on racing. Still a quiet time for racing. I think the acid test is going to come in winter, and as ever, we'll be watching with interest, and it'd be great to get you back on sometime. But in the meantime, best of luck with it in the pens.
Thanks, Simon.
Okay, good luck to Greg. Great to see another Zwift podcast, and particularly one as high quality as that. Actually, it's a really good listen. I urge you to listen to it, but only after you've listened to the Zwiftcast, of course. Let's wrap up with a few bits of kind of Zwifty news. Shane, this was an interesting one. Zwift have partnered with an organisation called VeloFix in North America. That's USA and Canada. VeloFix, as far as I understand it, they call themselves a mobile bike shop. Really interesting model, actually. If you've got a broken bike, they fetch up at wherever your bike is broken in a van, which has got Wi-Fi in it, actually, a bit like my car at the moment. And they fix your bike and stuff, and they call it a mobile bike shop. And they're saying this is kind of the future of bike shops, and they might well be right, actually. But they've partnered with Zwift, and effectively they will fetch up at your house and make Zwift happen for you. Basically, they'll do all the stuff that some people don't like doing at all. Good move, do you think?
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely. I have a YouTube channel dedicated to pretty much exactly this, demystifying all the technology, getting it working. And it's still quite difficult. Even today, I was pairing one of my head units to my phone and, that to Zwift and things like that, and things weren't working. I had to close all my apps and close Bluetooth off and open Bluetooth. Even for me, and I even had some dropouts the other day for my trainer during a live stream. So yeah, look, absolutely brilliant. A lot of bike shops, and not to step in the mud too much with bike shops, but a lot of them are old school brick and mortar, and a lot of them don't know like the power meters side of things, and a lot of them don't know it. They just stick to what they know, and that's fine. But things are moving on, and things are getting more and more complex. So if these guys are skilled up in Zwift, internet connectivity, latency, routers, 2.4 gig, signals having to be changed in a home, and baby monitors being turned off, and microwave ovens being pointed the other way, all these sort of things. If there's someone you can call on for that, I'm sure it would be highly successful.
Yeah, steep learning curve actually for the guys in the vans. I assume there'll be at least part of the learning process will be locked in a room and made to watch your videos on a kind of 24-hour loop.
Yeah, it's a bit different to changing a gear cable.
In the van, it's got the GP Llama go-to emergency button. Just push this button and Shane's YouTube comes up, and here's your library of searches on issues that have happened. No, I'm just
that happens. I mean, when have you not gone to YouTube and typed in how to, and I've seen, to be honest, I've seen bike shops doing that. I've seen bike shops typing in how to service a zip up, and actually, who cares? Why shouldn't they? It's a great resource and a way of learning these days.
It's the same thing with Amazon taking over. You know what I mean? Like, you have somebody who's more mobile and more techie, and now you add Zwift on top of that, and they can get involved. And VeloFix now franchising this out more. I do see this, taking over the space more. And the only thing holding it back was that bike manufacturers and parts and accessories wanted floors they could sell massive amounts of product to, and they wouldn't sell to the mobile shop. And now I'm seeing them give way because there's going to be buying power there, which is really interesting to watch.
Yeah, no, really interesting partnership. I have to say, I've no idea how it works. I saw the announcement. I couldn't find anything on the Zwift website, or in fact anything on the VeloFix website about how the actual thing would work. But no doubt no doubt that's going to come in time, and I'm sure it's currently being worked on actually, and obviously winter is Northern Hemisphere. Winter is the time that feature will come into its own. Shane, Zwift has been on the acquisition trail, acting like a very grown-up company and buying other companies, and they've bought an Israeli footpod company. What's the significance of that, do you think?
Interesting. Well, it's good to see them being successful and being able to take on other companies rather than sort of having to scrounge for things to do. So that's a good thing. But it's a little bit like Zwift selling ant sticks, really, which they did. But it's only really half the picture. People still need treadmills, and those are the expensive things, and they're bulky things. Look, the footpod in general, or the footpod in question, it doesn't really have the best reputation for accuracy either, especially when changing pace. So let's hope they can put more development time into that and make it a best of breed, and get people up and running and breaking down those barriers.
Yeah. Software company buys hardware company. Software company that said it would never do hardware does hardware.
Very small hardware. Very small hardware.
Yeah, I guess it is. And most, actually, it's just a piece of plastic containing lots of software, isn't it, more or less?
I think the lowering of friction just has to become more direct, even if it's a pass-through, but it all happens in one place. That makes sense. I mean, think of how many things you had to put together on Amazon to get Zwifting up front. And just being able to, I don't know, I mean, you see it with Microsoft where they are buying things and then they kind of let that thing exist underneath the umbrella, and then it just passes through, So I think maybe that's more. Yeah. Good luck, Footpod. No, you'll do fine, Footpod. No, you're not Microsoft. Example. Zwift is not Microsoft. Yeah, I don't totally different thing. I got a mixer hat on right now, not Nokia, okay?
Okay, all right. Well, that's about it, actually. I don't have any other Zwifty bits of news to talk about for now. But interesting development, that one, I think, Zwift on the acquisition trail and possibly getting into the hardware business. Could they do it with trainers, Shane, do you think? I mean, could we ever see, I know, they've said repeatedly that we're not going to see this, but could we ever see a proper Zwift trainer? And I don't mean a hammer with a Zwift sticker on it. I mean a Zwift developed trainer. I doubt it would be a trainer. I think it would be a smart bike.
For Zwift to commit to a trainer, it's going to have to be damn good. It's going to have to last many, many years. So I think they'd probably be leaning more towards the bike technology. And it's too new. It's still too new. Well, I've not seen or sat on a bike and had a decent amount of time on that I've said, look, that's going to replace my bike and my Hammer or Neo or Kicker or Drivo or Dorito or whatever else I've got sitting here. These things are big. Developing software, and this is one thing a lot of people, I guess if you're not in IT, it seems kind of crazy that Zwift produce just one piece of software and put it up on the server, well, multiple across platforms, but it's just one little bit of software. They hit go, and it goes out to millions and millions of people, which is pretty cool in the distribution scheme of things. Doing that with hardware, that's a whole different universe of doing that with hardware. You've got, just storage. You've just got ongoing support, returns. See, software, there's no returns. There's a bug report. That's it. That's the returns of software. Don't know is the answer on that one.
Different business. Yeah, different business. Very different business. But they're obviously on the acquisition trail, so it might be interesting to see where that one leads. Okay, that really is it. Shane, anything you would like to say before I launch into my diatribe about what a completely useless set of idiots are my internet service providers, Virgin Media? You can delay that little rant for a while by telling me something interesting you're doing or are about to do.
Look, I'd like to just say I just ran a speed test before this to make sure my internet was up to scratch, and I had 96 megabits down and 36 megabits up with about 7 milliseconds latency. So no complaints here on my internet. And as such, I'll be doing a couple more live streams coming up. I've just gone and got myself a little switching box that can switch screens. And I did enjoy my live stream of riding through Innsbruck. So I might do a few more chats with the community just to get more involved with the Zwifters and getting that positive feedback and negative feedback and just general banter during my training sessions. So look out for some live streams. But as always, there's videos going up daily, almost daily, of just little things that I find interesting and I think that are worth sharing.
Good. Well, we know where to find those. GP Llama. Just pause for a second while I just summon the Fort Bragg download upload speed, please, actually, if you don't mind. Seeing as I'm currently using my phone as an access point, and I've got
to get those kind of speeds.
Yeah, you did. Well, I've got about, bizarrely actually, on my phone I've got like 6 megs down, but 9 up, which is like weird. But anyway, and just to give you a little picture of what's happening in the car park now. This is an interesting thing, isn't it? When you sit in a place for a long time that you don't normally sit. So this is a car park near shops. And what's happened now, I mean, I'm sure this happens all over the world, actually, is the car park here that, and we've been talking about retail, so maybe this is pertinent. The car park here that really is for people who are visiting the shops has basically, it's only small, it's only about 40 spaces, has basically now filled up with the cars of all the people who work in the shops. And they're going to be parked here all day. So there you go. There's just a little insight into suburban North Leeds car parking for you. Nathan, what are you up to?
So we obviously Zwift Academy's launched, so we're doing some cool interviews.
Yes.
Last week we did an interview with Leah. We did an interview with Ali. This week we'll be doing one with Tanya. So it's pretty cool to catch up with them. ZwiftGPS.com and Gold Rush. We've got some experimental stuff going on with that with Innsbruck on Thursday. Weekly windup is really... Yeah, Gold Rush is back for... Well, it's been going on. You can always do Gold Rush. We just need to let people know you can do Gold Rush. And well, Zwift GPS now has the API. So I guess that's not true. You couldn't always do it once GDPR kicked in, and then it got taken down. Yep. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so now it is back, yes, and it's opt-in. If you opt in, then you can get your data over to ZwiftGPS.com. So we're doing a stream with that, a cool little kind of gamification with a third party on Zwift Community Live. What else is going on? Weekly windups ramping up. Obviously, me and Carissa, we've had some cool guests on. And then Greg Leo actually is starting to become more a part of the hosting. So that's pretty cool. And then obviously Jesper and Wes and Pat Shaw are killing it for the Land Down Under. So lots going on Zwift Community Live. Lots.
Good. Okay. Well, I'm now going to return home and edit this in between opening a phone line to Virgin Media, which was open for 12 hours yesterday with an entirely fruitless result. So wish me well with that one, boys. I'll try to keep on a even keel and a level temper and not shout too much. And hopefully I'll be back online in time to be able to upload this. Otherwise, I'll be heading for a spot with decent Wi-Fi to try and upload the podcast. Anyway, there we are. A little insight into my daily difficulties, which I'm sure people have found completely unfascinating. But there you go. Excellent to talk to you. Look forward to talking to you next time. And we will actually do the Academy next time. It should have made it onto this running order, but got crowded out. Academy does start soon, and we'll be doing lots of content on the Academy on the next episode. Excellent to talk to you both. Look forward to doing it again. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you so much, Simon. See you later, guys.
Just time for a quick thanks to Zwift for their support to the podcast, which is highly valued and, as you can probably tell, doesn't influence anything we have to say during the course of the Zwiftcast. Thanks for listening. See you next time.